Former Walmart employees of Reddit. What are your horror stories? Story 1. I worked for Malward 11 years ago for a whopping total of 8 months. I worked the overnight shift as an overnight stocker for Department 8 Pets. The store I worked at had just gotten brand new high-rise shelves installed. They were said to be able to hold over a ton. Well, one night after getting all my regular freight stocked and the overstock put into the bins, my bosses had me pull 8 pallets of Arm Hammer cat litter. The boxes had a bonus 10 pounds inside, making them nearly 35 or so pounds apiece. They wanted all of those on the high-risers. I asked if they were absolutely sure the shelves would be able to handle all that weight. I threw a fit about it because I know I was in the right for being worried. Other department managers who were there also sided with me. They watched over the next couple of hours as I carefully did my job. As I was putting the final 12 boxes on the bottom shelf, I heard a cracking and tearing sound, and next thing I know is I'm buried underneath all of the cat litter that had caused the shelf to collapse. Everybody in the store heard it happen, and everybody was explicitly told not to dial 911 or anything. That, after getting all my blood clean from my face and cuts patched up, I called my uncle's then-time girlfriend who was a lawyer, told her what had just occurred, and what the upper management is attempting to do. As of today, I still haven't spent all the money I received as a result of going to court over it. Walmart, working there as a cashier since October. Christmas Eve rolls around, and thank God I'm not scheduled to work. Cue phone call from the manager asking why I haven't come in yet that day. I'm not on the schedule, manager. Yes, you are me. I'm not coming in, I wasn't on the schedule. Next day I worked was the day after Boxing Day. Went and looked at the schedule, and lo and behold, someone wrote that I was supposed to work in pencil. I quit shortly after. Story 2. Last summer I frequently visited my best friend who worked at the technology counter thing at Walmart. One day when I was there, someone took the biggest, steamiest I've ever seen in my life in the middle of the toy aisle. Someone pushed a cart through it and it smeared everywhere. My buddy called in a code brown on his walkie-talkie. Trying to be a smart, code brown means hostage situation. Hilarity ensued. Edit brown is a shooting situation. Thanks you born 2 dodishes. Story 3. You'll start with my grossest. A woman comes in with some panties and said they didn't fit and she wanted to return them for cash because she had already bought the correct size elsewhere. She had a receipt and plopped a Walmart bag down on the counter. Inside this bag were 6 crusty-crotched stained panties that were a biohazard from 6 feet away. Needless to say, I did not touch them. I paged the manager on duty and he tells me to just take them back despite being very nasty. Process the return and she happily left the store with her 8. Story 4. Not so much a horror story. I worked in grocery as a stocker. We had just finished a cereal display near the front of the store compiled of about 100 boxes. In comes an older lady, around 60s, driving one of the electric carts. She's looking dead on at the display and promptly rams into the thing. Boxes go everywhere and she starts apologizing over and over and explains that she's legally blind. A customer that was nearby and saw everything asked her how she drove here if she was blind. She responded by quickly turning around and leaving the store. Story 5. Not really a horror story, more sad than anything. There was this older lady, late 50s, early 60s. I'm guessing that came in every day and she would kind of attach herself to an employee, usually the same one, and follow them around just talking to them about their day, her day, all kinds of stuff. As soon as I started at Walmart, she attached herself to me. I actually got to know her pretty well. She didn't drive and walked about 20 miles to get to Walmart each day, just because she had nothing else to do and was lonely, her words. She had 7, I think, cats and 3 pugs. She lived in a house with no floors and no electricity. A coworker who lived near her verified this. I'm pretty sure she didn't have running water either, just because of obvious hygiene issues. She also very obviously had some kind of mental issues. What was even more sad is that a lot of my coworkers would make fun of her to her face, but she didn't understand what they were doing. I thought it was really up. I felt bad for her, so whenever I had time I would stop and talk to her. It got to the point where she would call the store looking for me on the days she didn't come in. Story 6. I don't know if I had one particular horror story. Every day was its own horror story. My biggest pet peeve was people coming through the express lane with 800,000 items in their cart. Overweight, middle-aged women were the primary culprits. I don't know why, some weird sense of entitlement, I guess. There was one lady who could tell I was annoyed. I didn't say anything, but she kept trying to have a conversation with me and I kept giving her short, one-word answers. At one point she was like, "Do you have a problem with me or something?" And I was like, "Well, it does say 20 items or less, we have very little counter space here." She said, "You're the most hateful person I've ever met," which must be an exaggeration, because I never said anything really rude to her, other than to answer the question she clearly asked. I'm surprised she didn't call a manager. Some dude pounded his fist on the counter as hard as he could and screamed, "Come on man, hurry the..." I was trying to unroll a roll of dimes to give him his change. He was buying corn dogs from the deli place. Had a guy throw his cigarettes at me because they were the wrong ones. I laid the box on the counter, he picked them up, and threw them at me, hitting me in the chest and said I said gold moron. Those were just isolated though, really it was just the monotony and soul-sucking feeling of dealing with slack-jawed idiots all day long. I worked there many years. Overall, it wasn't terrible. And I have read a lot of horror stories on Reddit about things that happen to people at their jobs, and I just can't conceive of most of it happening at Walmart. Besides that, I have never witnessed problems with working off the clock or was ever asked to work off the clock. I felt generally paid appropriately for my job. That doesn't mean I didn't hate the out of it sometimes. And it doesn't mean nothing bad ever happened. I had scores of shitty managers, and worked in stores that were run badly. Having said all that, the worst thing that ever happened was this: I had recently inherited the toy department. This was about 10 years ago. It had gone without a manager for like 6 months, and the one they had before that was utterly incompetent and lazy, so the department was a mess. But I am a toy department professional. Literally, I can take any toy department and make it look like somewhere you want to shop. Clean it up, stock it right, I will work my off and fix it in the back room too. So it was daunting, but I had a lot of confidence in myself, and I knew I'd be pretty much doing it alone because, well, Walmart doesn't give about toys, but I figured if everyone just left me alone, and let me work my department, it would be fine. So hey race, what happened anyway? I decide the first thing I want to do is physically clean the place up. There was overstock everywhere, and the bike rack and Power Wheels rack was just a dumping ground for any kind of you can imagine. Power Wheels are the big electric ride on toys. Anyway, so it takes me days, but I finally get the Power Wheels rack cleaned up, and I can actually start moving the Power Wheels boxes themselves around back to where they're supposed to be. So, I grab one and it sounds all rattly. I thought maybe some other toy had fallen in or a bag of screws inside the box had busted. But then as I move the box, I see there is this wet streak where I am moving the box, and there is a hole in the corner. These things run from 75 to 300, and this is not what I want to see on an expensive item. Oh no, I think mice. Well, no sooner did I have that thought than 2 mice come bursting out of the hole and go sliding across the tile floor. I scream and jump back and recompose myself. I push the box some more and it sounds like a rain stick. It's all PSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSS can't sell it in this condition and I don't want to break open this box on the sales floor because I don't want customers seeing whatever is in here. I get a cart and try to load the box. The bottom of the box basically gives way, and mouse just cascaded out, bits of paper, liquid. It was the most wretched I had ever seen. Every time I moved the box it was just everywhere, so I'm about to hurl at this point and I get the stupid box onto my cart, go grab my PP personal protective equipment and clean the out of the shelf, the floor, the air, my hands, everything. Usually I'm sort of LOL PP, but I wish I could have gotten a biohazard suit for that. Anyway, I take the stupid box to the back. This box is like 5 feet high by 3 wide and 2 long. Okay, so imagine how much potential for there is in this box. It's everywhere. So I get to the back, go to the area we take damaged goods and tell the woman there that I'm throwing this thing out and explain to her what's going on with it. Please mark it down, but don't touch it, etc. She throws a fit, says she needs to talk to the manager. So we wait, and he comes and eventually decides that what we need to do is open the box and wash the merchandise. I say no way, this is for children and it's completely filthy and I'm not touching it. It's not safe or sanitary and no one should have to clean this thing. He says fine, leave it and we'll get rid of it ASAP. I think and I go back to work. Next day that filthy box is back on the sales floor. I raged, threw it back on the cart and took it back again. Mouse was still falling out of it. The woman says the manager said we couldn't mark it down and we definitely couldn't throw it away and we can just try to sell it as is. No. We get into an actual screaming match. Like, why can't she see that a toy filled with rat is not safe? She's crying, I'm fuming. The store manager comes by and says that he told a maintenance guy to clean the box up and he's sorry, it looks like he didn't do a very good job. Mother, I don't care how good of a job he did. I want that thing gone. Like, if it is in my department, I am leaving and I will never come back because this is sick. Walmart is disgusting. And I can't even believe I'm having this argument right now. He said that was my choice, but had have the item cleaned up properly by this afternoon. So I sliced open the end of the box they had retaped with actual mouse in the tape and stuck my hand in and yanked the whole thing out. Nearly fell over. Not only was it filled with, it was a huge nest and there were corpses all over thing, and all over the floor and dead mouse babies stuck to the cardboard inside flap. GG. The store manager looks totally disgusted, and gets on his walkie and calls the bike assembler. The guy arrives and he says clean this up and sell it as a display. The bike builder looks like he's about to faint. I said, I'm done, bye-bye, and I left. I didn't know what to do. I thought about calling corporate, OSHA, the news, the health department. What I actually did was went home and cried. The next day, I ended up going into work at whatever the time I felt like it. I clock in and go to toys, and there's that power wheel. I don't know how long the poor assembler worked on that, but it did look 1,000,000% better, but I didn't care. I dragged that mother straight to the compactor, but it wouldn't fit, so I had to rip the wheels and mirrors off to cram it in. I was back there raging at the compactor for like 40 minutes. I took the battery out and took it to automotive to recycle and decided if they fire me, then it. Everyone in the store practically saw me the past 3 days fighting about this stupid toy with management. Everyone saw me literally throw a piece of merchandise in the garbage. Instant termination. BTW. No one ever said a word about it again, except the store manager who came by and said, where did you end up putting that display? I said, in the garbage, boy. He fumed. He just turned and walked away. I did turn that toy department around. Got our pest control guys and thanks to an assistant manager who made the call, since department managers can't do that, and rocked the out of that department for several years. I won some awards for sales and improvement and no one questioned my again, and luckily I never had another problem remotely like that again. The store manager was demoted and moved to another store soon after. My mom was a manager at Walmart. She told me about this woman who was trying to steal a prepaid phone. When she got caught by security, she used the knife she was attempting to open the plastic packaging with to cut the security dude after cutting herself. She then went on to scream at him that she has AIDS, and now he's going to have it for trying to stop her. Story 7. Once I had a woman who was giving me a hard time about a coupon that was expired. Coupon people are the worst. She refused to give up. She really wanted that dollar off. My line was really getting long and I was getting really frustrated. So I reached in my pocket and pulled out a 5 and said, if I give you a 5, will you give up on this coupon? She got pissed and said, I can't believe you said that to me. She told the CSM, but I didn't get in trouble for it. Story 8. I sprained my back moving product in the back. At first I thought it was a pulled muscle, and walked towards the pharmacy to try and buy a heating pads and some Tylenol. I made it to jewelry, barely keeping conscious from the pain. I asked my coworker to call management and let them know I had hurt myself pretty badly and needed to go to the hospital. Management told her to have me go to the back office to fill out paperwork. I blacked out twice going back, and was yelled at for taking so long. I ended up being out for a month and a half for the injury, and got a whopping 24 in workman's comp because the second I got hurt my hours were reduced to 1 hour a week. I hate Walmart. Story 9. 4 hours into my first shift, I was facing items on a bottom shelf while a coworker was facing items on the top shelf. She dropped a gallon of Gatorade on my head. Management refused to let me report the injury or leave to seek medical attention. I finished the shift, dazed and in pain. The next day I found out my skull was broken. Officially, since I was not allowed to report the injury, it didn't happen at work, I rage quit. Story 10. Not a Walmart employee, but we had a homeless guy die standing up taking in a urinal. He somehow got wedged in between the barriers that separate urinals. Later that night the janitor found him with his crusty homeless in his hands, dead. Story 11. A friend of mine was working part-time at Walmart, had been there for over a year, was working any and all position shifts they threw at him so he could try to provide for his wife and unexpected new baby. He started to apply for any and all full-time positions as they really needed the benefits. One day management took him aside and told him this was not the Walmart way and he needed to make a plan with steps on how to get to a particular position. Apparently, anything full-time is not okay. Walmart wants to help you achieve your specific goals. Story 12. So, second story time about the time that I killed someone. Maybe I was still working the customer service counter and we had this guy roll in with a very large stereo system box on top of a shopping cart. This guy pushing the cart is very thin, sweating, and quite obviously on something. I know this is going to go badly. There's a policy at Walmart, or the one that I worked at anyway, that electronics must be cleared by someone from that department before we accept any returns. I page electronics to the front of the store and as we're waiting, the guy with the return begins to sway and loses the little bit of color he had. With this, I have a gut feeling that this is about to go really badly, so I page security too. Security and electronics arrive about the same time, and as they begin to open the box, this guy goes down and begins convulsing on the floor. Security calls 911 and I use another phone to page the manager. Well, the manager arrives and decides that it simply will not do to have a customer convulsing on the floor for everyone to see, so he tells the security guy to help him move the guy to the back office. They couldn't move him until he stopped seizing, and once he did, they sat his unconscious body in an office chair and wheeled him back. EMTs arrived a few minutes later and they were not amused that he was moved. They scooped and ran with the guy. When we opened the boxes finally, they were full of rocks. There was nothing in the boxes to return. Story 13. I was working at Walmart at the beginning of this year. Aside from weird older men hitting on me, it wasn't that bad. A few weeks before the minimum pay was raised, they decided I needed a new position in the store. I was told that I was great with people and needed to be out helping customers as opposed to checking. Sales associates get paid less than cashiers. They told me that since it was basically a promotion for me that they would let me keep the cashier pay instead of lowering me to sales pay. I agreed to the job for that reason, plus new job was full-time. A week later they take me to sign the papers for the job switch and the manager gets to the pay part. He says, I know we told you that you could keep the same pay, but it's just easier to make it the same as everyone else's. Besides, everyone's pay is going up in a few weeks anyway. So I just agreed whatever's still going to be making more. Then my hours start getting cut. I agreed to 40 hours. I was cut down to 25. My manager said he messed up the schedule on accident and would fix it. It continued happening every week. I finally got so frustrated I just left one day and never came back. Story 14. There was black mold in the dairy cooler, and I don't mean just a little patch. I mean all the way along the yogurt wall. The manager who was asked to clean it claimed he did. So naturally the higher-up management went to check his work. He hadn't even touched it. They ended up having to stand in there watching him disinfect the cooler from top to bottom. This was a well-known druggie and it was too gross for him. A coworker witnessed one of the day shift meat department workers take a piece of meat that was almost green out of claims and put it back on the shelf. On top of that, for a good 3 months you could smell the expired meat from outside the meat cooler. Story 15. This was like 5 days ago. I still work there. Went into the men's room and there was liquid on the wall and dripping down to the floor, like someone literally shot a diarrhea rocket on the wall. I just pretended like I didn't see it and carried on with my day. Story 16. I could write a novel about all the garbage I saw in my 5 years there while in college. Main rage-inducing moments. 1. People coming through the 20 or less item lane with 2 buggies full of garbage, and they look at me and ask, all the other lines are luong, so this is okay, right? Me too. When you're a cashier and you're clearly closed with the light off, a closed sign on the conveyor, my dead inside 1,000-yard stare, etc., people will ignore all of it and start stacking stuff on my line. then get outrageously angry when I direct them somewhere else. I have an exam in 8 hours, and I've already stayed 30 minutes past time I was supposed to leave. GTFO 3. My main job was selling guns and ammo. People had no grasp at all that willfully lying on the 4473 is actually breaking the law. I got really good at spotting BS a mile away. 3A. Had one guy walk up clearly mentally off and try to buy a gun. After talking to him and probing a bit, I was already going to deny the sale after I realized this man was a few fries short of a Happy Meal. After he gets denied, he says to me, I was institutionalized for a few years back, but am better now. Why was I denied? 3B. Had a woman walk up with a presumed grandson. Normal start. Instead of looking, he goes directly to a shotgun and points to it and says, we want this one. Ask who the legal guardian is, inform them of the sale and legality, blah blah blah. No big deal. Had an odd feeling, but I brushed it off. This is where it gets interesting. As she starts to fill out the form, the kid gets on his phone and makes a call, and starts gesticulating towards the shotgun and starts mumbling. I walk closer and heard, Brand is the one, right? Are you sure? Instant red flag. I start paying real close attention and it starts to look like a straw purchase. I start asking all the usual questions. Intended use, who's it for, hunting or self-defense, etc. Answer are short and rehearsed. Another red flag pops up. The final nail in the coffin was a guy comes up, walks to the grandparent, asks how it is going, then the kid points to the gun and asks, is this the one you wanted? Ding ding ding, we have a winner straw purchase. At this point I shut it down and tell the grandparent, ma'am, I believe you aren't buying this weapon for yourself or your grandkid, so I cannot continue with the sale. Is there anything I can help you with? She promptly loses her mind. She's screaming at me, calling me racist, we're all white by the way, stupid kid, and generally berating me for all her life's woes. She screams for a manager, and I get one, and let him know what's going on. Of course, by the time management gets here, she puts on the exasperated grandmother face and asks him why this idiot won't sell me a gun. It's my Second Amendment right, manager, where the guy you were with go. Dude walks up at this point behind what looks to be his son. Ma'am, is the gun for you or him? Grandmother, oh yes, it's for hunt deer with this, holds up birdshot. Me, you're going hunt deer with birdshot. Manager, ma'am, in backing up whatever my gun guy says, he know more about this than I do. We can't sell you the gun, have a good day. Leaves grandmother. Fuck you and this store. I am never coming back. Leave me, thank you sweet Jesus. 4. Someone argue with me insisting. 223 rem was the exact same. 56. Moron, I do this for a living and I've hunted for 20 years. I know what I'm talking about. Too bad I couldn't pimp slap customers when they needed it. TLDR, people are stupid, people lie, and you should never lie about guns to the rednecks selling them. Edits formatting, can't count. A word. One day a woman stole a bottle of perfume and took it to the bathroom. She poured it out into her own container and then proceeded to fill the container with her own. She then took the bottle up to returns and tried to return it. To this day I have no idea why my manager gave her the refund. It was very obvious that the woman pissed in the bottle because it was still warm. TLDR, woman steals perfume, returns her own, and profits from Walmart. Story 17. Walmart week-long anniversary sale. I bring out a crate of Charmin Ultra Soft that was on sale. A pack of shoppers jump at it. Mom sends her little 5-year-old daughter to squeeze into the crowd. Other lady scratches her and takes her score. Women's washroom, blood, water and tissue everywhere. A line of pissed off ladies forms in under 1 minute after closing off washroom for cleaning. Some guy throws up in aisle 3. Barricade both ends of the aisle to clean up. People still try to squeeze in even with the smell and the visibly disgusting floor. Collecting carts in a parking lot where driving instructors like to take their students. This was before they had that electronic cart pushing thing. People will stand in the middle of the road as they see me coming in with the carts, all the while dragging little Timmy with him. I can't just swerve away from you and that oncoming car, so get out of the way. Some guy makes the perfect spiral in the urinal in the men's washroom. Why, how? I left it for the night crew and feigned ignorance. Story 18 happened before I got hired, but I heard enough about it from coworkers. An elderly couple would come in once a week to go shopping. The old man had troubles walking, so he would kiss his wife and go sit in the fitting room area until she was done. One day they came in and did their little kiss and he also handed her his wedding ring, like he knew something was about to happen. A couple minutes of sitting there after his wife walked off, the guy collapsed to the floor and the fitting room ladies called 911. One of the department managers of the time was also a paramedic, so he rushed over. The old guy started to cough up blood and every available associate had to come and make a wall of people so customers don't see what is going on. All of these associates saw and heard the guy choking on his own blood, now coming out of his nose and ears, dying on the floor. They were trying to find his wife and no one could find her, and the associates had to wait a half hour for the coroner to get down there and take the body. The associates who saw it still have flashbacks about it. Story 19. I used to do field service for Walmarts in the Portland, Oregon area. The East Portland stores were especially fun. The Village, Eastport Plaza, and Happy Valley stores are relatively close together and we techs referred to them as the Gauntlet. The Eastport Plaza store was especially active, and we nicknamed that one Thunderdome. Every visit, we would witness an arrest or something more exciting or disgusting. Last Christmas, for instance, while Frank Sinatra's version of Mistletoe and Holly was playing, a dude was totally faceplanted by some cops after resisting arrest, in the process damaging the automatic doors and knocking over a display. Another time, a tech witnessed the arrest of the hottest-looking hooker ever on 82D Street being cuffed and stuffed in the parking lot. One day, I arrived at Thunderdome, and noticed that I could not get to the customer service desk to check in. Several workers were not allowing people to pass, and there were also a number of orange cones marking the restricted area. A quick whiff indicated what my eyes later confirmed all over the floor. The men's room is right next to the customer service area. Eventually they had to break out the Zamboni machine to finish cleaning up. I had about 10 registers to work on there. That day they beat the out of their equipment in that store, and after 2 hours I was ready to take a leak and check out. They still weren't letting anybody into the men's room. God only knows what horrors there must have been. I did not work for Walmart but for a company that serviced the magazines at Walmart among others. I would see people open magazines and spit in them and put them back. I would see people ripping out pages and blow their nose with it. People would stick religious and political pamphlets into the mags. I saw one old lady rip the covers off all the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issues. Another time someone kept trying to hide the ESPN body issues, which was frustrating because we were under orders to have them displayed prominently in a specific spot, so I had to find them and reset them about 5 times. Then of course the people who just rip open the magazines in plastic wrap, meant to keep something else inside like a CD or DVD, and take the product. The best part is even though I had witnessed all of this, our company policy was to not interact or try to stop the customer, and to just throw away any damaged product and fix everything and go about our business, and to just let the staff at Walmart know. Which I did, but I'm sure you can guess what they would do about it, even with the culprit still in the store. Story 20. Well, I was a cashier for 2 years. Honestly, I pretty much enjoyed it. Shocking, I know, but the worst experience I had at Walmart was the night I refer to as the comedy of errors. Long text and forgive me, I'm on mobile. It happened about a year or so in. Firstly, I was the only one open. Now, a lot of people say that, but usually that's not true. Why? The company uses data from the last year to assign shifts for the current year. For example, if a snowstorm came in on January 2, 2014, and we were bombarded, the computer would assign a bunch of cashiers to work on January 2, 2015. This system leads to days when there are very few cashiers and days where there are many. On this day was a slow day the year before, so there were fewer than usual. Also, everyone else called out, so I was alone and kept the entire store on my shoulders, so I enacted time-saving measures. Firstly, I would, between orders, give people in line their own dividers so they could start putting their groceries on the belt while I was helping the person in line before them. Constant flow. Well, this woman hereafter referred to as Ellen comes in my line with her son, but he was transgender. Edit FDM. I'm actually quite open on that type of thing, so I used male pronouns for him and will do so here. As I gave the customer in front of Ellen her divider, I overtossed it. Ellen claims I assaulted the customer in front of her. I asked the woman I threw it to, and she denied Ellen's claim. To quote Tommy Wiseau, I did not hit her, I did not. I apologized regardless, and the woman's husband made a joke about hitting me, because I was stressed and everyone was annoyed about my line. I went with the joke, adding it better be a good punch. They enjoyed it and went on their way. Throughout this entire time, I'm paging for my manager to help me with the line. It reached dairy by this point, the back of the store. It's Ellen's turn now. Everything goes alright until I ask about a shirt without a tag. Now by the book, this ain't so hard. Just ask the customer the price in the department and fill out a little slip. But you needed another slip to show the accountants where the shirt was manually added, as a source document. Now, I asked Ellen what department the shirt was from. She refused to answer. I took the shirt off the hanger and unbuttoned the top. Men's shirts have buttons on the right and female shirts' buttons are on the left. Due to an interesting historical aside I won't get into here, I determined the shirt was in the female department, explained what I did for the Ellen, and moved on with her order. Her son, the transgendered FDM edit man, was buying liquor. He looked under 40. Walmart policy is to card every friggin' person in the damned party. So I carded the guy and Ellen, who was pissed. Ellen was more pissed when her check wasn't going through. FYI, check paying at Walmart can be a when the scanner ain't working. Well, it wasn't. And sometimes the bank issuer asks for verification of the person's identity, which adds 5 minutes to the transaction. Ellen is pissed and she and her son leave. I see them complain to my store manager. Well, the next part is a bit confusing. The store manager pulls me aside and accuses me of committing harassment and assaulting the customer. The manager was and abused me just to show off his power. He sends me back with a lovely threat that if you receive another complaint tonight, you are fired and I will make you unhireable. To the point, cleaning on the sidewalk is a dream job. Get back to your work. Of course, the line is still out to dairy, and I'm traumatized with fear. I work another hour or so I get home. I poured myself a drink and wondered how did I commit harassment to Ellen? I understood the assault she just denied the woman from before and claimed it hit her instead. Then it hit me. Well, remember the shirt, because I had to put it in a department to sell it. I offended Ellen on behalf of her son. Apparently, the shirt was for him and not Ellen as I surmised. By having the button on the left, I misgendered the person even though the shirt was undeniably from the woman's department. I immediately FB'd my FDMSJW friends. They agreed that my actions were okay and not harassment. Ellen's son told me how professional I was, which I thank my college for. I only offended the mother and not the transgendered individual. There's more to that night, but that's enough for now. Anyways, the next day I had off, but I went in to get my side of the story out and to complain about that manager. That was unprofessional as. Anyways, it was a comedy of errors, to quote my favorite manager there, because she knows I wouldn't hurt a teddy bear. TLDR, it took me so long to type this on mobile. It will take you less time to read it. Edit thanks to Uxel and you that Jaina girl for pointing out issues with phrasing, my apologies and no mean to offend. Phone autocorrect ducking sucks. I worked at Walmart about 13 years ago at one of the few stores left that closed overnight. It was a regular old Walmart, not at all super. I worked overnight stocking. I liked it. I only dealt with customers for a couple hours before the store closed, and then just stocked the shelves. I mainly worked in the automotive department, and the nights would go by really fast. I worked with a bunch of people who were related to each other. There was the dad, Steve, his wife's sister, and his stepdaughter who worked there during the day in the jewelry department. Steve stocked the sporting goods department, right next to mine. This guy was really gross. He would constantly pop over to my section and ask me if I needed help lifting stuff up onto the overstocked shelves, and he would make comments about how pretty I was and how if he was 10 years younger he'd date me. Dude was pushing 50, and I was just a 19-year-old girl. I just laughed off his comments, say I didn't need help and that I was perfectly happy with my boyfriend, thank you. One night he decided to tell me how big his penis was. He related a story, a total lie, I'm sure, to me about how one day he was getting out of the shower and his stepdaughter who was 17 saw him accidentally and exclaimed about how nice his penis was and how she wanted to try it out. I was dumbfounded and I did not know what to say. I just said, oh, well, I gotta get back to work, and kinda shuffled away. A week later he was caught having with his wife's sister in the bathroom at work. They were both fired. His wife quit and his stepdaughter continued to work there.